Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Got lots of hot topics, Real Housewives of New York, and so much more. And I have a great interview with a really interesting girl who wrote a book called Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life. And yeah, when you hear the story, you're going to see why she came up with that title, Gabrielle Stone. And she's going to come up in a little bit, but let's get to some hot topics. So, you guys, I remember how obsessed you all were with the show Cheer on Netflix about people doing competitive cheerleading through a junior college program. Well, this guy, Jerry Harris, was kind of a breakout star of the show because he was so enthusiastic about everybody. And very sad, he has been arrested on many counts of child porn. Basically, this is the story. He's 21 years old, and there is a lot of evidence. And also, he admitted to officers that he is guilty of this, of production of porn, which is basically he went and asked a 13-year-old boy who he met at cheer competitions to, according to the boy, not only did he ask for him to perform a sex act on him during cheer practice or competitions, and the kid got out of it, said he had to stretch or do a tumble or something. And then he proceeded to communicate with him through Snapchat, and the 13-year-old boy, upon request of Jerry, sent naked photos of his genitals and buttocks. And he is just one of several victims. I think there might be up to 11. How many? He was 13, but there were numerous victims, like at least like 8 or 10 or something. So it's really not looking good. And you know what, you guys? I didn't get the hype of this show. I told you I thought it was weird that people were staying in junior college for years and years and years and years just so they could participate in cheer competitions. And guess what? It is a little fucking weird. Okay, so thank God they found out he was doing this, because the mother of the 13-year-old boy was obviously horrified. She found out about it because she got her kid's phone and saw that he was sending these photos of himself to an adult man. So really sad and something to be aware of. Speaking of cheer, the main woman, Monica, she's on Dancing with the Stars now. And she's really good. Obviously, she's good. The coach, what's her name? Monica. The coach, obviously she's good. She's a dancer. She's a cheerleader. When I watch these Dancing with the Stars, I always get so annoyed when someone who clearly has a lot of dance background, whether it's her or the guy from Backstreet Boys is on it, and they always have to go, even though I danced in a boy band for 10 years on stage for 4 hours straight, this is so different. This ballroom dancing, I've never done a foxtrot. Obviously, you're going to be a front runner. You have a lot of dance experience. But nothing is more annoying than when an Olympic figure skater does Dancing with the Stars, and we're supposed to believe that they're at the same disadvantage as Carol Baskin because they aren't ballroom dancers. Hello, dancing is a billion times easier than ice skating. Basically, Johnny Weir was dancing, except now he can dance without blades on his feet. Talk about being a million times easier. So, of course, Johnny Weir is going to kill it and probably win. But they did it with no audience, and I have to say, it was pretty pleasant watching. So if you're into it, it's pretty fun. And then, of course, Carol Baskin is on it. And, she's not good. And she's dorky, but I do think she got some Botox and a little face work done. She looks a lot better than she did in the documentary. However, the craziest thing happened is that her husband, who, they think she killed, what was the guy's name? Don Lewis is who they think she killed, but because he went missing and never returned, and it was very suspicious. His first wife and their 3 daughters did a commercial with their attorney that aired during the Dancing with the Stars episode. Just very simply shot, like in a lawyer's office, where they all say, I'm Don Lewis's daughter, I'm his first wife, and then the one lady that was on the documentary as well, I was his assistant. We believe that he was murdered. If you have any information about Don Lewis's murder on these days during Tampa, let us know. Or if you have any indication that maybe Carol Baskin might be involved, please let us know. We're offering a $100,000 reward for the person for a positive conviction of his murderer. And then they come back, and then it's like, and here's Carol Baskin. I mean, pretty amazing. I don't know how much a commercial costs in prime time, and I'm also not sure if this aired in every set, every place, or was it just in Tampa? I think it might have just been in a few markets in Florida, but pretty brilliant. So it probably costs like $100,000 to run, and then they're offering $100,000, and I'm sure they could just, I don't know, it's just pretty hilarious. Okay, let's get into the Real Housewives of New York reunion part 2. We have been trying to figure out what set Dorinda off, what made her so mean towards Tinsley, and what was the final straw that made the Bravo producers and executives fire Dorinda. Well, a lot was said on Thursday's episode that helped me figure it out. They start going at it again, her and Tinsley, and she said, well, you didn't really talk about your life with John. We didn't really hear about why you broke up. And then they flash back to this page 6 story where it said Dorinda mentally taking a break from longtime boyfriend John Medesian. And then they show her with Sonia going, look at that. How do you think this article got out there? Do you think Ramona planted it? And Ramona's like, oh, please, Dorinda. And she goes, all right, I'll tell you the truth. My friend Greg planted that story and gave it to page 6. So he kind of ripped the Band-Aid off for me that John and I weren't together anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then they get to her problem with Tinsley. And Tinsley's like, I still don't get it, Dorinda. You're so mean. And we were friends. And the minute you found out that my boyfriend Scott gave your boyfriend John money, you turned on me. And she's like, it's not true. It's not true. And then Andy goes, you were so mean and you never apologized. And she goes, I apologize. And they're like, no, you haven't. And he said, and what about your freak out at the end of the final episode where you said that, just Tinsley's name being brought up? She goes, I'll tell you why. Because you know what? It wasn't authentic. Leah started to say that, oh, let's give homage to Tinsley, who, I was introduced to the group through Tinsley. It's not true. It's not true. Bethany did that. And if there was a finder's fee for finding a housewife, Bethany should have gotten it. And so it wasn't authentic. And then here, sure enough, we're down a person. We're down Bethany. She leaves in the middle of the season. And we're going to have a toast and do homage to her. I was like, no. The few of us, we stayed here. We slugged it out as she took off. And I'm like, okay, Dorinda, you slugged it out. You were on a reality show in New York City where you were on 3 vacations and drank every night. Okay? I don't think you were Navy SEALs that were left in a war-torn part of Afghanistan as Tinsley and Scott hopped in the helicopter and left you there to die. Okay? So let's just, seriously, we slugged it out. So Andy's like, okay, first of all, Bethany gave us 30 names, and Leah was one of them, but our casting director already had Leah's name, which totally makes sense because Leah already did an episode of Patty Stanger's $1 Million Listing. Or not $1 Million Listing, sorry, $1 Million Matchmaker. She already was on it. So that's why we always see housewives who were previously on Say Yes to the Dress or previously on this one-off type of show. They get on that and they are in these casting directors' databases. Okay, they were good. They were cute to shoot. They were pleasant to work with. They had kind of juicy, kind of snappy, kind of funny. If I ever need to come up with some other people, I'm going to go back to this well of people, which is why you see when someone hits reality stardom, oftentimes it wasn't their first rodeo in reality TV. And it wasn't Leah's either. So he kind of slammed that and she goes, well, I don't know. It wasn't authentic. You tried to make this big friendship between Leah and Tinsley, and it wasn't true. And Leah goes, well, we did become really good friends. And we met before the shooting because the producers wanted you to meet and be a fake friendship. And Andy's like, no, we don't force anyone to be fake friends. Well, you know what? It isn't authentic. And you know what I know now? You know what I know now, Andy? Let me tell you what I know now, Andy, okay? You don't have to be there till the end of the contract. You can hide stuff about your life. So now I know that for the future. And that, my friends, is what got Dorinda fired. Okay? That performance at the reunion, and not until that part was said did the producers decide she was going to be fired. Because of obviously she had Bethany coaching her. Even Ramona said, Bethany's in your ear. She had Bethany coaching her. Bethany tried to tell her, it's all bullshit. The producers are pushing this fake narrative. She breaks the fourth wall in the reunion and says that. And they're like, fuck you. And again, now she's been out for 5 years. So she's annoyed. What I always say, she's annoyed that she had to do more days of work, maybe not getting paid as much as she thinks she should be. Revealed that that she believes there's fake and push storylines, which producers never want their cast saying that. And there you go. And that Bethany should get a finder's fee? Come on. Like, what? You're trying to say that the producers and the casting directors don't do their job, that it wasn't for Bethany, we wouldn't find Leah? And Andy fucking squashed it. I mean, that said so much more than even her screaming at John in Miami. That just told it all. Thought it was juicy as shit. So there's going to be no lofts there. Finally, Tinsley's like, just let me go. Let me go and be with my guy, Scott. Let me just go and be there. And so she leaves halfway through. And one thing that Tinsley said to Dorinda, she goes, your Achilles heel is that you will never admit that you're wrong, Dorinda. And that is going to be your lifelong problem. And I was like, wow, Tinsley, you're freaking right. She never will admit she's wrong. She's always deflecting. She's always making excuses. And then she hung up on this weird thing. Okay, so then, they flash back to all this. Then Ramona has to pee, And do you blame her? She's 63 years old. And she goes, I have to pee. She goes, I'm sorry, I'm just going to get up, just sneak off to the bathroom. And Andy's like, you forgot your mask. And everyone's like rolling their eyes, She's like, oh, sorry, can someone hand me a mask? So then she comes back and we get into Luann a little bit. And we flash back to when Luann was shivering in the lower level of her $6 million Hampton house that had a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. But Luann, once again, was slighted. Am I right, ladies? I mean, the lower level. I won't settle for the lower level. No, I won't. And what was nice about this moment is everybody said that Luann has changed a lot. She's humbled. She's way more down to earth. And then Leah goes, well, it is kind of always the Luann show. And then Luann's like, what do you expect? I'm one of 6 children. I didn't get that part because I always feel like people that are of a larger family are actually more selfless and it's not about them. And they know that they're not going to be, it would be interesting if she said I was an only child. I don't know what it is. Who cares? The point is that Luann's grateful and she's grown during the, arrests and sobrieties. So then we get to, and I found out about all these rugs. I guess they were rugs from all different reunions. So they put all these rugs around and it doesn't look great. But, they're doing the best. They have to be 6 feet apart. So then we get into the Leah and Ramona thing. And Leah is like, you know what, Ramona, you're really shitty. You brought up that I was bipolar. And that was an article I wrote in 2016. And that's not why I freaked out on you in Newport, Rhode Island. It was because you said I could bring my sister, and then you said I couldn't, and you knew I was drunk, and you just really set me off. And then Ramona was like, well, you know what? I'm sorry. I was with a girlfriend of mine, and I was explaining how, how you really just, the way you behave, it's just, really, really upsetting. And we Googled your name, and we did see the article that you wrote about being bipolar, and I thought, you know what? Maybe by me bringing up you being bipolar, it's an excuse for your horrible behavior. She goes, well, my daughter didn't know that, and now she does. I'm like, okay. You wrote an article that was published that you were bipolar. If Ramona wasn't going to pull it out, some Bravo fan would have pulled it out too. And then Ramona kind of saved herself. And she was like, look, I really liked you a lot. I thought we had a lot in common. We are both self-made. We both came from humble beginnings. We didn't marry someone rich. We didn't widow well. She didn't say widow well. She's like, we didn't have a husband who died and left us a lot of money. She kind of was zinging. We weren't married to a count. And we didn't have a trust fund. So, and I was like, oh, and she goes, and I really enjoyed our friendship at that time. And I was, hurting that it had changed. So we still have one more episode of that, but, I can't get enough. I love it. You guys, speaking of Real Housewives, Nene Leakes is officially not returning. And basically, she just said she spent a long, long time negotiating and they could not come together. Nene, this is a huge mistake. Ryan Murphy isn't going to throw you in another sitcom. TV isn't even getting made regularly, normally. You're on the down slide. Your career hit its peak when you were the gym teacher in The New Normal, and it's here now. Maybe she wasn't a gym teacher, but she was in The New Normal and she was in Glee. Okay? So she had 2 Ryan Murphy NBC shows, which is why she left at Real Housewives of Atlanta in the first place. Then she comes back and she's going to really double down. You're ridiculous. You get to film in your home in Atlanta. You have to get in your car and drive 12 minutes to get tapas. Really? Really? Okay. All right, girl. She left. Andy did some cute photo. Oh, I'll miss you. And then Kelly got really upset because she said, why is it that Lou is never referred to, Luann, as an OG? Because for that one season she was a friend of, she's never missed a season. Nene's been on and off for a couple years or even missed half a season. Why is she considered an OG? So I don't know. I don't know if maybe those posts we've seen, maybe Lou just wasn't featured, but I do consider Luann an OG. So you guys, you got to watch The Vow. It's on HBO Max. You can stream it. I don't know if you can watch the whole thing. I just know I watched part of it, and then I said, let me watch the latest episode. So I kind of think maybe there's a couple more, and maybe they are doing it once a week. This is about NXIVM, which we've talked about for the last 3 years with Allison Mack, the actress, who, recruited these girls to be in this weird cult with this awful guy named Rainier is his last name. He's so gross. And it is amazing because it's real footage over the years that they filmed themselves to promote their own, organization. And then we're watching, in real time when Catherine Oxenberg, who is an actress who is on Dynasty, is trying to rescue her daughter, India. And she did a lot of press. She wrote a book about it. And I really don't know where everybody is right now. I know that India finally got out of it. But at this time in the episode I saw, she's trying to rescue her daughter. Her daughter has now been branded like you would a cow with Rainier's initials and Allison Mack's initials. The main whistleblower, who was the first person I ever saw in an article, I remember somebody sent it to me. I'm like, this is insane. This woman's 40. She's educated. How the hell did she allow herself to get in this situation where she's being branded? And now I've read so much on it. I've seen so much. I now finally understand by watching this what this was all about. And they formed NXIVM. Then they formed this other thing called Jeunesse, which was just women. So NXIVM had some guys in it. Jeunesse was just women. And then from that, they formed this thing called DOS, D-O-S. And it was very secret. And this girl tells her story about how she was a documentary filmmaker herself, really struggling in life, not in a good relationship, in her 20s. And she meets this urban farmer girl, and she wants to do a story on her, a really intelligent Black woman. And that girl befriends her and says, I think that you'd be amazing in this program. It's going to change your life, but it's so secretive. I need to have some collateral so that I know that you will never share the secrets of this secret society with anyone. And she's like, what kind of collateral? She ends up giving her all of her passcodes to all of her social media, photos of herself, nude photos of herself, and then also a letter that either she sent to her brother or a letter about her brother's girlfriend cheating on him that she never wanted maybe her brother to see. So some kind of information that they could use against her if, in fact, she broke the rules of this and tried to share it with anybody, like Heather McDonald of Juicy Scoop or something. She'd be in a lot of trouble. She ends up deciding to move from L.A., I think she's in L.A., to Albany, New York, lives in this house, and then this is where they go, the first thing you need to do is lose weight and change your body. And this is how you're going to do it. You're going to wake up every day. You're going to do an, workout for an hour, very, very 500 calories a day or 700 calories a day. And her master is the girl, Rachel, who was the farmer, that she met, that got her into it. She has to call her master. She is this girl's slave. And she agrees to being a slave because she said, you don't trust yourself. And the only way you're going to learn how to trust yourself is to vow yourself, make this vow, a lifetime commitment to me as your master. And in doing this, have this awakening. So she has to, every time the master texts her, she has to text her back within like 1 second. Like within seconds, if it's been a full minute, she's like, she'll get a text from her master. The fact that you did not write me back tells me it is already problematic. And she'll be like, Master, can I please have a carrot? And the master will say, no, because you didn't text me back quick enough when I wanted to talk to you earlier. And then she starts having one-on-ones with Rainier. She starts having sex with Rainier. They call it body work. Allison Mack is featured throughout it, the actress. It's really juicy. But what I said in Thursday's show is I think this is kind of what's sparking a lot of people kind of questioning the way that Teddi Mellencamp's All In works, because it is a texting accountability relationship regarding food, which is very similar to what we're seeing in the vow, where they have to, say, can I have this? Or when they admit that they had something to eat that they shouldn't have, the accountability coach writes them back very sternly. And also they say, you will be kicked out of the program if you break the rules. And they've already paid the $500 to be in it for the 2 weeks, which is they never meet the person in person. There's no group meetings. And when you think about it, back in the day of Weight Watchers, people used to go to Weight Watchers meetings and they used to stand on a scale, and it used to be encouraging, but it also used to be a little shaming. So in essence, this is what that is, but it's really just between you and one other person. So some people might think that's even more humane, better, for someone. But there's been like at least 15 articles written about Emily Gillis kind of exposing all these unhappy customers of Teddi. Teddi's defending it. Now, obviously, Teddi is not Rainier. She's not moving people to Albany. She's not making people sleep with her. They're not posting collateral. They're not doing anything. But the diet is very, very restrictive. And Teddi is not a licensed dietitian, and neither are any of the coaches. And the way I understand it is, you go through the program and you maybe have some training with Teddi, and then you yourself can be a coach. So it is a multi-level marketing plan that has become very, very successful. And Teddi said over 15,000 women have been participated and succeeded at it. And I don't know if that 15,000 mean that they paid the 2 weeks or they've been going on in the program for years, because it gets less as it's like once you pass this 2 weeks, this is the monthly program. This is the once a week program. I don't know. So there's probably a lot of people that are these coaches that are like going to defend it too, because they were given a career that they could be a stay-at-home mom, just like every other multi-level marketing program that caters to moms is like, you don't have to go to an office. And it's even better because you're not folding ugly leggings and mailing them out and taking photos of them and trying to get people. What is that ugly legging company, Kelly? Remember we talked about it? LuLaRoe. You don't have to do shit like that. You don't have to, back in the day, sell Mary Kay. It was just you on your phone. You could be doing it at the park with your kids, encouraging your client to stick to the diet. So I can see why a lot of people liked it, wanted to be part of it, wanted to become a coach themselves, then get people under them. Then those people become coaches, and so on and so on and so on. But, obviously you can quit anytime you want. But I think because of this very powerful documentary that's out right now, I really think it's sparking a lot of people questioning this kind of a program. And Teddi is defending it, and so are a lot of her happy customers and coaches. So you guys can check it out and decide for yourself. Speaking of Beverly Hills Housewives, please go to my Instagram and YouTube, youtube.com/HeatherMcDonald. I have all of the podcasts up there, as well as my best sketches, which I just did another Barbie Zoom Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. Kelly did an incredible job editing this one. We had a little tiny prop of text messages printed out. I mean, we really killed it. It's amazing. And it's on my Instagram at Heather McDonald, on all my social media, but on my YouTube too. You just go to heathermcdonald.net. Also, you guys, watch my special. Leave a 5-star review. People love it. Share about it. That's on Amazon Prime, Video Prime Direct. Everything, heathermcdonald.net, and of course, Patreon. And now for a really juicy interview with Gabrielle Stone. Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I have a real juicy author and actress and TikTok star.
Oh, God.
Gabrielle Stone. I actually saw your TikToks promoting your book. And I love that you're using that platform to promote your book. And your book is Eat, Pray, #FuckMyLife.
Yep.
And it sounds like a real juicy one.
It's a juicy shit show.
So tell me like about the book and your story, what made you do it.
So I was married for almost 2 years. In 2017, I found out that my husband was having an affair with a 19-year-old for 6 months.
Okay, now let's hear about that.
You're like, okay, and pause.
So how long had you dated your husband before getting married?
So he proposed after 8 months, which was very quick, but then we were engaged for 2 years. So we did take our time to make sure that this was the right
you're
situation.
A working actress.
I am.
And so have you always been in LA?
Yes, I grew up in LA.
Oh, okay. And so then what did your husband do?
He was in the sports world, not like as an athlete, but he coached at a really high level.
Okay.
But he met me as an actress. He knew what my job was. And that was definitely one of the red flags that I disregarded and thought we could go to therapy. That he was never really okay with my career. Anytime I would go to do a shoot, it was jealousy and who are you going out with and who are you having dinner with, and if I had to kiss someone, I mean, forget about it.
Because as most of your acting work, like you had a lot of on-screen kisses? Because like I have not, and I'm very bummed about that.
Yeah, you're like where are they?
Yeah, I literally think the only person that I've kissed was this guy played Amy Winehouse in a sketch, and I threw a Jamba Juice back into his mouth, like I was vomiting.
Even a good kiss.
No, it wasn't even like
real
kissing. Yeah. So that's never been an issue in my marriage, but I wonder that would be. I could imagine that being hard for partners.
And I'm sympathetic to that. I don't know if I could do it. It's a really hard thing. But again, he met me as this being my career, so he kind of knew what he was signing up for.
Yeah.
And it was. He would put me through hell when I was on sets.
How would he do that?
Just calling at night, keeping me up, getting into fights and starting fights to the point where I was crying. So I would be on sets where I was living my dream and fulfilling my passion. And then at night, the one person that was supposed to be supporting me was like making my life a living hell.
Oh my God. And then you're like, I have to be in a great mood. I have to be focused. And then you're like, oh shit, the phone's ringing. And then how would you try to placate like his stuff?
There was one set that he actually came to visit me on, and he kind of made a scene on it, and that's like the opposite of how I work, obviously.
Right.
And it was really hard to navigate, and it affected my work.
Yeah, like who's going to want to hire the girl with the weird husband?
Right.
Like, we don't need to fucking deal with this weirdo.
And it made it weird to then go have to do, this kiss scene with this poor actor when he knew that my husband was there
like
being
seething.
A psycho.
Yeah. And what kind of sports did he coach?
He coached volleyball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guys or girls?
Both. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when here we go in the juicy part of it. Obviously when the news about the affair broke, he was fired because you can't really coach 18-year-old girls when you're sleeping with a 19-year-old one.
So was he teaching at high school or club level or what?
Both.
Oh.
But the girl was not one of his students, and she was not
a volleyball player?
A volleyball player, no.
Now, how did you find out?
Girl, I missed my calling as a private detective. And
Please,
at first I wasn't going to write about any of this because it's kind of just the beginning, setting the scene of the story. I was just going to jump into what happened after that. But my girlfriends were like, no, Gabrielle, you have to write about this. This was like a fucking episode of CSI. So I went back and wrote about it. Basically, we had been having problems for like 6 months. I didn't know why we were having problems, but it was very apparent. We were in therapy. I was working my ass off to try and,
save it,
get back to where we were good, because we hadn't even been married that long. And
did you have like a big traditional wedding or anything?
Yeah, we had a really beautiful wedding that my mom worked her butt off to pay for and like give me this beautiful day. And it was still, till this day, it was amazing. I produced the shit out of that wedding. We just cast the male lead wrong. It was a beautiful wedding. But so we had been having problems and we were in therapy, and he was going to coach for 2 weeks. The first week he was supposed to be in Florida to coach the girls. Second weekend he was supposed to be in Ohio to coach the boys. And we had been not on good terms. I had found some weird things on his phone.
Like what?
Before he left. I had picked up his phone when I was putting the laundry away. His phone was in his sock drawer. And I picked it up and I went, "Why is your phone in your sock drawer?" Didn't touch a thing. And a text message came in with a girl's name with a heart in the contact. And he snatched, this is all in the book, but he snatched the phone out of my hand, went into the bathroom, came out 30 seconds later and was like, "Whatever, take my phone here." Unbeknownst to me, he had switched his phones, and that was his second phone that I found, and he came out and handed me his original phone.
So he had 2 identical iPhones.
2 phones, yeah. It was crazy. So that had happened right before he left. I went on a girls' trip with my girlfriends. I was pretty sure at that point I was 95% getting a divorce, but there was that lingering 5% that was like, "Come on, Gabrielle, make it work. You can do it." And I was in the office one day. He had left his email open on his MacBook, and I didn't go digging. I didn't even look at first. I still, till this day, don't know his password to that email. And a notification came on. And I looked over when I was in the office, and it said that it was an Uber receipt from where he was supposed to be in Florida to Miami. And I was like, okay, why is he going to Miami? And that was really all it took. I went through his trash email, and every receipt, every hotel receipt, every dinner, every like couples massage, it was all there. So at that point, I was like, okay, I have to find out.
And how is he paying for it? Do you have separate accounts and separate cards?
Credit card, yeah. His business credit card that he was supposed to be using for his coaching business.
To buy volleyballs?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the balls. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to find out who this is and who he's been with. So I called the Four Seasons.
But how did you feel? Like, seeing that, having the confirmation that his dick has been in someone else, while he's accusing you of like cheating and having affairs and not being faithful while you're trying to like build a career and make a paycheck. Like, were you angry? Was there, because you felt you were almost at the end of this marriage anyway, was there any kind of like, well, now I know, and now I don't have to feel bad about it, and now there's a real reason to get the fuck out? Like, what was your thought process?
It definitely obliterated that 5% that was still there.
Yeah.
Luckily, and I didn't find this out until later, I wasn't in love with him. I loved him, of course, but I think I married him because he was safe. And I can't imagine going through that whole experience and being heartbroken on top of that. Like, I was in a definite state of betrayal and rage because this person was supposed to be my person. I trusted them with my body. So I felt incredibly disrespected and enraged, but I wasn't heartbroken.
Right.
And very soon after that, I realized what a big gift it was. And I felt like he really did me a favor and set me free from what would have been years of trying to make something work that would have just failed inevitably.
Yeah, I always feel like that, it's hard, but then sometimes there is that gift of like, thank you for showing me who you are. Thank you for betraying me so badly that I can never forgive you.
Yeah.
And feel no guilt in getting rid of you.
Totally. Before we had kids and before it was 10 years of my life that had gone down
I call
the
it
drain.
the starter marriage.
Yes.
It was a starter marriage.
I love that.
There's a book called it. I didn't create the word. There was a book that came out like 10 years ago called The Starter Marriage, which is if you have it by a certain age and you didn't have kids and it was like under like 2 or 3 years of time spent together, then it's just like
it's just prep. It doesn't really count.
Exactly. So, so how do you confront him once you have these receipts?
So I found out who she was. He was in Miami with her.
Now, how old is he?
He at the time was 27, and she was 19, which doesn't. I've had relationships with bigger age gaps. It's the age that it was.
Yeah.
Because it's right when someone becomes an adult. They haven't really fully matured yet. It was that.
Well, I've talked a lot about that because obviously there's a lot of people that are 17 years apart, 20 years apart. I really think it's when you meet that person, you know, and it's exactly true. When you're 18, 19, and this is like your second boyfriend in your whole life, or maybe even your first love, and he's 38, that's very different than you being 30 and him being 49.
Yeah.
You know, like you've had a life, you've had an education, you've had like.
Totally. You're not a child anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so were you pretty grossed out?
I was grossed out, but it was more of the fact that I could look at the receipts of everything and see how long it had been going on.
So how long had it been going on?
About 6 months for the amount of time we were having issues. And on top of that, it was looking at the dates of when things were happening. When I was winning awards for a film that I was in, he was like, oh, I can't come. I have to work, blah, blah, blah. And he was at a hotel with her. It was just matching the dates up was what was really grimy.
Didn't it make you feel almost like, do you fucking hate me? Do you hate me that here I'm winning an award, good things are happening for me, and the reaction is to go find someone else and pursue them? And then that I want to ask you, but then the other thing I never understand, why is it when people cheat, and I've only heard it with men, but when men are cheating, do they then accuse their spouse of cheating? What is the mindset of that? I've never understood.
It must, I couldn't tell you, but it must be like a panic thing where they have to put it on you to make it seem like it's a narcissist technique to make you feel guilty when they're the ones doing something.
Yeah.
To put the attention off of them. But yeah, it made me feel like, why didn't you just come out and say it instead of hiding this for 6 months? You must be fucking exhausted. Like, let's just get divorced and go our separate ways.
Right. I always say how much work
what's
that
the point?
Would be. Yeah. So how did you confront him?
So he was out of town coaching. After I found this out, we found out who she was, my girlfriend and I, and started following her on Snapchat and seeing this whole trip with her and my husband in Miami.
Oh, she has it on her Snapchat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she was very careful to not show his face, but like she'd like take a picture at dinner and his white watch and his arm was in it, or you could hear his voice in the background. So she knew that he wasn't allowed to be seen on social media. But I mean, obviously he's my husband. I know his arm, I know his watch, I know his voice. So they were out, drinking at Nobu, even though she's not 21. Like, it was just, we watched their whole trip unfold on her Snapchat.
And then, I mean, money-wise, were you furious to calculate how much money he'd spent on her? Or?
Well, I ended up in the divorce when everything came to light during what they call discovery, where you have to like tell everything, that he was in debt with his sports company for like $60,000, and a lot of that was due to
spending it
on her.
And how did they meet?
From what I hear, they ran into each other at the gym, and then it became like an Instagram DM thing. But this is all hearsay from people that have been very quick to run and tell me things when all this news broke.
Right.
But so when he came home,
so did she live in your neighborhood? Like, did she live around the area?
She lives like really in Calabasas, like very close to my mom.
Oh,
yeah. I taught
an
a
818 drama here.
Yeah, and I used to teach dance growing up, and a lot of my students are friends with, or not friends with her, but know her from school because it was that much of an age gap. Yeah, it was wild.
And okay, so what do you say to him?
So he comes home. I had a process server waiting at our house. He handed him the papers.
For divorce?
Yeah. I came outside. I said, look, I know everything, but if you still want to come in and talk, that's fine. And he said, of course I do. So he came in wearing gym shorts of the gym that she worked at. And he had just come from a workout with her, which I saw on Snapchat. And it was just like, how dumb can you be, dude? Like, at least, change your clothes or cover your tracks. Like, he had been staying at her parents' house since he had come home from Ohio.
And what did the parents think? That he was just her boyfriend? That
couldn't tell ya.
Okay. So, so he comes in and sits down, and what?
He comes in, he sits down, and he basically starts saying, obviously you've been feeling the same way I have, and I'm really sorry that we couldn't make this work, and I think we were just too young. Not saying anything about like, oh, by the way, I've been boning someone else for 6 months. And I just kind of sat there quietly because I didn't want him to know how much proof I had of everything.
Yeah.
And I had, receipts, photos, like it was insane the amount of proof that I found just from digging through the shit that he had left open at home. And so I just kind of sat there and let him talk, and he was like, well, do you want to just figure out what we each want to take? And I was like, well, no, this isn't the end of a sleepover, dude. This is the end of a fucking marriage that we were legally bound in. So my lawyer will be talking to you about that. And then he said, he had just gotten this big promotion to this really high up sports job. And he said, Gabrielle, please, I'm begging you, just whatever you do, don't come after my new sports job, because that's how I give back to the kids. And that's really what I can do to make people happy. And I went, okay, then say it. He was like, say what? I said, say it. And this went back and forth like 3 times. And he finally said, what, that I've been in another relationship? I said, yeah. Okay. And I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. And I felt like a fucking world of a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I knew I had just dodged a army of snipers with this one.
And so did you guys own a property or just lease?
No, we were renting, thankfully.
So thank God for that.
It should have been a really clean and easy divorce, but because he hired a friend that was a criminal justice attorney and not a family law attorney, everything took way longer and cost way much more money. And it was a shit show. And it should have been so clean and easy.
Yeah.
He even asked me for the ring back. And I said I already sold it and went to Europe.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you leave, you tell your family. How did they feel?
So everybody was totally shocked. His mother was shocked.
Was she horrified?
She was horrified. His dad knew for a few months, and his dad was in Ohio with them. Yeah, he had brought her to Ohio where all of the kids...
And wait, were the dad and mom together?
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole nother... apple doesn't fall far, but...
Oh,
yeah.
You think maybe the dad was a serial cheater?
I think they have a slew of their own issues.
I think that... and I'm not saying this for everybody because people will freak out, but... I do think there is almost like a cheating gene, or you're raised in it a little bit, and in some ways it'll just like alcohol will make you go, I'll never be a cheater like my dad or my mom or whatever. And in other ways, because it was accepted, because it was seen, because you kind of knew, and you saw that your dad went through this or the mom stayed, or I don't know. It's just, or sometimes if your dad's a cheater, sometimes you end up like marrying a cheater and sort of accepting it. And I it's just like, it's
there's
weird.
Definitely a disrespect gene. Like when you're raised in a home where you see your dad kind of not give a shit.
Yeah.
And not treat someone the right way.
Right.
Then that definitely, I think, trickles down. But everyone was shocked. My mom was, and she's super intuitive. Everybody was like, not him. He couldn't have ever pulled this off. What? It was really blindsiding to everyone involved.
Have you ever seen the girl or met her or run into her or anything? How?
I don't think I've ever told this story on a podcast, but so I was living at my mom's after all of this happened, obviously, and still going to the gym that I had gone to, half my life, and I was working out, and I looked over my shoulder, and we locked eyes. And I knew exactly who it was, and she knew exactly who I was because I could see it in her face. And I kept working out and turned around 10 minutes later, and he was standing there talking to her. So
did he know that you were there?
No, I don't think so. Well, I'm sure she probably was like, oh my God, I just saw Gabrielle. But I don't think he knew. He didn't clock and see where I was. So there was not even a question in my mind. It kind of just went blank. And I walked straight up to them. And I said, hey, dude. What's up? How's it going?
Now, at this point, is the divorce final or not?
No.
Okay.
And so he looks like he's seen a ghost, proceeds to give me a side hug, and I was in front of her. And he goes, hey, how are you? And I said, I'm good. Look, I'd really appreciate it if you could maybe sign our divorce papers and get the attorneys the info they need so we could maybe, get divorced. And he was like, oh, well, I thought that that I had done everything that they needed. And I said, well, no, because you hired a criminal justice attorney and not a family law attorney, none of it was done correctly. And then I turned and looked at her and said, I'm sure you'd like us to get divorced, right? And then turned back to him and said, so could we maybe get that done? And he was like, yeah, no problem. I'll make sure it gets done. And I said, thanks, I really appreciate it.
And did he move on a little quicker then?
No, he was just kind of like deer in headlights.
Yes.
And then I turned back to her and I said, I'm Gabrielle, by the way, but I'm sure you know that. And walked away. It was like out of a movie.
Were you like shaking?
On the inside.
Yeah.
But it was...
My heart would have been like...
Yeah.
I would have been feeling good about myself, but that kind of like...
Oh, yeah. That,
holy shit, I
like
can't
principal's
believe...
office panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, my God.
And then he signed him. They got done real quick after that.
And when you... So you moved out of your shared place.
Yeah.
And, okay, so then where did you go? Your mom's?
I went to my mom's. I was there for probably 8 or 9 months. And then I got my own 1-bedroom in North Hollywood and moved a little bit farther away.
Okay. So once you were done with that, then you met someone else.
Yes. So I had known about the divorce for probably a month at this time. Like I had known about the cheating. But I had been out of my house with my ex-husband for probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
And I saw on my popular page this Instagram pop up, and it was a guy who I had casually gone out with twice before I even met my husband. Like we had gone dancing and made out, and it was fun, and that was it. And I was like, oh, here he is. Like I'm going to follow him. His name in the book is Javier, so that's what I'll refer to him as. And 5 minutes later, he DM'd me. And was like, oh, my God, Gabrielle, where have you been for the last 6 years? I said, oh, funny story. And we started talking, and he invited me to go dancing that weekend. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm single. Like, absolutely, I want to go dance with this hot Latin guy and, like, make out and not have a care in the world.
Yeah.
So we ended up going to the beach earlier that week to kind of catch up. And it was just kind of instant. Even at the beach, we were trying to kind of just be chill and cool about everything. And we just really connected on a deep level. And caught up on life and like my whole story about the divorce and what I had been through. And what he told me was that he had gone. He's an actor, obviously, he had just come back from shooting a show in Vancouver for 6 months, and before that, his brother had passed away due to suicide. So he had really gone through this big like healing journey and had obviously dealt with a lot, as had his family. And so we really kind of bonded and connected over that. I lost my dad when I was young, so it was just really instant.
Yeah.
And then kept it mellow, hugged goodbye. I was like, okay, great, I'll see you this weekend. And then went dancing, and it just kind of 0 to 100. And by the end of the night, it was like, I'm going to a wedding. Will you come with me? I'm like, let's go stay at a hotel together.
How was like the first bone after the husband? Like just...
So we stayed together in a hotel the first night, didn't sleep together because
Did you dry hump?
A little bit, yeah.
That's
There's
my
a little
favorite.
bit of dry humping, and a lot of making out.
Okay.
And but we didn't sleep together for the first 4 weeks, like a month that we were together, which was insanely hard, but commitment.
Yeah.
And
why? Because you just felt like you weren't ready, or you knew this?
No, it just like was all happening really fast.
Yeah.
Like he was calling me his girlfriend and telling his friends and family, like, this is the girl I'm going to be with in like day 3.
Okay.
Like it was very just insanely instant.
Uh-huh.
And so I just wanted to like pump the brakes on one aspect of it, and it was like, well, shit, if we can't do it on the emotion side, we'll do it on the physical side. And then once we did, it was freaking amazing. I mean, it was like, I was like, oh my God, I've been having the same boring dick for 6 years, and now I'm with this like hot new guy after my shithead husband. Like it was fabulous. And so we were... On that first night that we stayed in a hotel, he was like, I don't really know what to do. I have a month-long trip to Europe booked. I was like, well, I would never tell you not to go travel. And he goes, no, I want you to come with me. And of course I was like, you're fucking insane. Like what? You're crazy. And the next couple days he kept bringing it up. And I finally was like, okay, well, when do you leave? And he goes, September 4th, which would have been my 2-year wedding anniversary.
Uh-huh.
And I go, okay, when are you coming home? And he says October 4th, which is my late father's birthday. So I was like, okay, universe, I hear you. I'll go on the trip. So we're committing to going on this month-long trip to Italy. I've never been to Europe. I was like, this is obviously going to be...
So he has it all planned out. He has his flights, the hotels, and all you have to do is just match the flights.
Yeah, and he was like, I'll buy your ticket. And I said, no, I don't want my ex would fix things with paying for things.
Yeah.
Whenever he would mess up and like piss me off or I would get hurt from something that he did, he would, shopping sprees or take me to dinners. And like, it became a really unhealthy situation. Mm-hmm. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, no, I want to go on this trip, but I will buy my own ticket and pay for my share of it. And sold my ring to do that because obviously I was broke after my divorce and paying for lawyers and whatnot. So I sold my ring, bought my ticket to Europe, and everything was like amazing. I met his family. All of our friends and family were like, oh my God, this is crazy, but I see how in love they are. All of his people were like, I've never seen him like this before. This is so different. And it was about a week before we were leaving. And we had just come back from Vegas we went for a film festival that my film was screening at. And he just was very different.
At the film festival?
No, when we got home from Vegas, like the day we came home.
But the Vegas was great.
It was amazing.
Okay.
It was amazing. And he had told me that he had this weird dream about his brother and like a lot of like feelings were coming up. And I think what had happened was he had so much intense grief that he stuffed down to try and not deal with it. And when he fell in love with me, it kind of like opened up a floodgate. But that week before we were leaving, he was very off. And anytime we would talk, I'd be like, are you sure you still want me to go? Like, are we okay? Because everything's so different. He's like, no, I just feel all this heaviness. But yes, I still want you to go. I'm not breaking up with you. I love you, blah, 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 this and that. And so I was just kind of trying to support him and guide him through, I know grief pretty well in my life. So we would have a lot of heavy talks, but they would always end with, no, I still want you to go, and no, everything's fine. 48 hours before we were getting on the plane, there was a phone call, a 3-hour phone call filled with lots of tears. And he told me that he needed to go by himself, that he didn't feel anything for me other than friendship feelings, and that he needed to take this trip on his own to go figure out why he was in so much pain. And I was fucking heartbroken. Like, he broke my heart like my ex-husband never could have done.
So now you bought all your tickets.
Yeah.
And how much are we talking that you've spent so far on the tickets?
I think the flight was like $1,100 or $1,200 because I was buying it so late. And our tickets were booked to London and then connecting to Rome. So I hear this information after I have like a massive cry on my bed and cry myself to sleep. The next day I wake up and I was like, well, I can either stay at home and be heartbroken, or I can go travel Europe for a month by myself.
Because you couldn't get your money back?
I don't know. I didn't even try.
So now, are you on the same flight with him?
Yeah.
Are you sitting next to him?
Yeah.
You couldn't even ask to change your seats.
I could have. Let me explain a little bit. So he comes over the next day. We have this big talk. I'm like, look, I'm still going to go. And he's like stoked for me. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't see that until you're a little farther away. But in this particular situation, I've had fear of abandonment since my dad died. I lost my boyfriend in high school. Like, I have a lot of like,
your boyfriend died in high school?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm not okay by myself.
Yeah.
And this was the universe's clear way of being like, well, Gabrielle, you're going to go face that shit head on alone across the fucking world. So I knew that I was going to go learn a lot and heal a lot from this trip. So we had this big talk, and during that time, we were still weirdly okay. Like, I was devastated and heartbroken, but that like friendship soul connection was still there. So he picked me up. We went to the airport. He took the photo of me that I posted kind of announcing my divorce and the fact that I was going on this trip that day. And I was planning on not sharing a bunch on social media while I was off on this trip. But that one photo, I got hundreds and hundreds of messages from people like, please keep sharing your journey. Oh my God, this like totally changed my mindset. I'm so moved by this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm so happy I did that, because now every day I have people that start liking all my Europe photos, and I'm like, oh, they're reading and like looking along with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we sat next to each other on the plane. We flew to London together, and then he walked me to baggage claim, and I stayed in London, and he went on to Rome.
Oh, so then that's where okay.
Oh, no. I didn't do Italy. I took like, I was like, well,
you changed so then you had to book your own hotels.
Well, I had a friend that lived in London, so I knew like, okay, at least I have a starting place there when I land. but I didn't book where I was going to go next until I was in whatever city I was in. So on day 3 of London, I was like, okay, where are we? Let's do Amsterdam next. So I'd book my flight, figure out where I was going to stay, and then go, which is so opposite of my personality. I normally plan everything ahead of time and do a lot of research, but it was very much so just like flying by the seat of my pants.
And had you ever been to Europe before?
No. I had been to Bulgaria once to shoot a film when I was 18, but other than that, no.
You never done the getting on the train and all that stuff?
I've also never traveled with a backpack. I usually have, like luggage and shit.
Yeah.
So this was like a month into my backpack, and that was what I was doing.
And when you were on the plane, okay, I love the title of your book, Eat, Pray, and Fuck My Life. Were you a fan of Eat, Pray, Love as the book in the movie?
I hate to say this, and I don't know if I've ever admitted this, but I had never read it. And I had never seen the movie. I watched the movie the day before I left on my trip.
The Julia Roberts.
Yes. I have read the book since.
And it's
wonderful.
Why did you choose to watch it? Did someone say you should watch it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I watched it and went, oh my God, this is literally my life right now. But before I had watched it, when Javier dropped me off from that talk we had, he was like, how are you feeling, Gabs? And I said, like, I'm about to go on a journey of Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life. And right there I was like, oh, and that's the title. Because I knew I was going to write this when I found out I was going alone. I was like, I'm going to write a book about this. There's too much crazy shit going on in my life to not write this down, and it's going to affect other people that are going through things like this.
And this is your first book?
Yeah.
And had you always had like a desire growing up, like one day I'll write a book?
Not at all.
Oh, really?
Not at all. And I bought a leather-bound journal the day before I left on my trip, and I started writing it the first day in London. I wrote 3/4 of it on the trip, and it's not like journal entries that I then turned into a book.
Yeah.
You open that journal, and it says chapter 1, and it's very much so how the edited final version came.
And so I mean, I want people to read the book. So, like, I mean, what was the best part of traveling alone in Europe? What were some negatives?
I think the best part is all the amazing people you meet. It's so funny because when I posted that TikTok video, a couple people were like, she didn't go alone. Look at all those people. And I'm like, no, those are people I met on my trip. And, all I knew before I went on that trip was about hostels was that there's a movie and people get brutally murdered in it. But they're amazing places. They're very much like adult summer camp Airbnbs, and you meet incredible people there. And I met so many great people that I write about, and it was wild because everybody that I met, I was like, oh, I'm writing this book. This is kind of like what journey I'm on. So the people that are, what you would call supporting characters in the book knew while we were going out in Europe that it was going to be written about. And I then stayed in touch with them after because we became friends. So on their side, watching this whole journey from experiencing it to then reading about it in a book is probably wild for them.
And then, so I saw you on TikTok with like the hold a finger if this ever happened.
Oh, yeah.
And those type of things. And I really think that was a really clever way. And there's another woman that I'm following that her book is like skyrocketed. I don't know if it was self-published or whatever, but she's using that as a way of marketing her book. And I just thought it was really interesting because it's different than Facebook and Instagram. So when you came home, like, did you get a proposal and get a book deal? Is this self-published? What happened?
So I came home, I finished it. So I wrote the whole book in probably 3 months total.
After the trip?
No. So I wrote 3/4 of it on the trip, and then I took a little bit of time to finish it when I came home because I was still healing. And coming home was probably the worst part, and I had to go back and write about those chapters of falling in love with Javier and like reopening all of that.
Oh, but on this, is there some love that happens in Europe?
There's multiple loves that happen in Europe.
Good.
Yeah,
okay,
there's some that I'm really proud of and that are great, and there's a one night stand that maybe not so proud of, but still learned a lot from everything that happened. So I came home, I finished what I hadn't written, and I shopped it to some publishers, but everybody wanted to either change it or shorten it or tone it down, and I was very sure in what I needed to say and what I knew was going to resonate with people. So
did any publishers have a problem with the title?
Yeah, a lot were scared of it, even though you can't copyright a title.
Because of that. Oh, I thought because of the Fuck My Life.
Yeah.
Because when I wrote my first book, You'll Never Blue Ball in This Town Again, I just loved the title so much because there were these other books that were like, you'll never nanny in this town again, you'll never make love in this town again, all coming from you'll never eat in this town again, which is like a Hollywood 90s. So, but I remember my agent was like, the publishers took it, but then they were like, just so you know, like, it's not going to be in Target. It's not going to be in Walmart. And my book came out 10 years ago when there was a lot of more, where people bought more physical books in stores. And I just was like, I don't care, you know? But then with the second one, I was like, yeah, I definitely want a title that could be in those stores, which is My Inappropriate Life, but whatever. So I wondered if maybe they were saying that too, that like
a lot
by
of
having
people were concerned about it. I mean, as far as the F word, like I would have actually just put fuck my life, but for, you know, having it on, you know, stands and stuff, it's probably better that the F word isn't blasted across of it. But for me, and I'm sure yours is the same way, it's almost a nod to the original. Like it's a satirical play on that.
No, I think the title is great. But some were worried about really?
And just about the copyright. But you can't, like I said, you can't copyright a title. So some were like, oh, well, you know, it's pretty close. I was like, well, it's supposed to be close. It's like a play on the fact that it's got a weirdly similar setup. And then it turns into a shit show.
Right.
But so I shopped it around a little bit and wasn't happy with any of the feedback and, you know, I knew how I wanted it to be. I also wanted to keep control over it and keep the rights to it. That was really important to me. And the turnaround time. I mean, you know, from publishing a book, how long that can be. And this I needed to get this out for my soul.
Right.
So I worked with an editor and published it, I think, a year and a half later, once we had shopped it. And then I did the edit process. And I shot the cover myself. I did all of it and self-published through Amazon.
You look super cute.
Thanks.
And so you did it yourself.
I did it myself.
I'm so proud of you. That's so great.
Thank you.
You know, when I have people ask me about, you know, book and publishing and stuff, I say, you know, at this point, if you can, I would do it yourself because to be quite honest, I heard the money isn't really there anyway.
Yeah.
So like, why would you... why would you go down that route?
And you have to put the effort behind marketing it yourself, even with a publisher.
Yeah, they don't market. Yeah, they don't market. And then it's like true. It's like they can't guarantee that you're going to get on the Today Show or anything like anybody else could. And oftentimes I'd have to hire my own publicist for the books anyway. So I was like, well, what was the point of being with the Simon & Schuster?
To pay money out.
Yeah. So,
the audiobook, though, I did, once the Kindle and the paperback was released, I did get a deal on the audiobook, which was great because that's expensive to produce yourself.
Yes.
So I did that with Tantor Media, and it was such a wild experience to go in and like record these conversations that I had with these men in my life, like, and doing their side of the conversation out loud. It was a really wild acting experience for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then also like they want to make it so perfect.
Yeah.
So then you're reading it and you're like, okay, I haven't stopped for a page and a half. All right, girl, you're doing good. And then you like stumble and you're, oh my God, it's gonna take so long.
Sorry, take it back. But it was fun. I mean, and I did it very much in my own style. Like there's parts where you can hear me getting choked up, and
which is
there's
so
parts where
awesome.
I'm laughing at myself. It's very authentic as to who I am, which was really fun to do.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people that listen to my podcast like to listen to it, the audio books, for that same reason, because they're so used to listening to stuff. Okay, so have we heard from any ex or anything since this has come out?
Well,
either or.
Yeah. So Javier knew about the book the whole trip, and after. He and I have been a saga, and that will probably eventually be in a book too someday. But he was really amazing and signed a release for me to do this, as did his mother and his sister. They were all really, really supportive, and I was so thankful to have that, because I could have done it anyways, but it wouldn't have been as like in a good conscience.
Right.
And I include a bunch of text messages from different people, and in order to do that, you have to have a release. So they were really gracious and supportive.
Unless you're on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I guess.
Then you just say fuck it.
Yeah.
The ex-husband I have not heard from, and I hope to not. I honestly have nothing against him or his chick. I think they're still together. I've heard some interesting stories about the types of relationships they have. But I am really honestly thankful to him. He set me free from something that would have been really shitty for me for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And if he wouldn't have made it so easy to walk away, I would have been there for a lot longer.
Of course, because you're like, oh my God, we're married. We have to try.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on?
Yeah. And like I made this commitment and we just had this beautiful wedding with all our friends and family. And but he made it very easy for me to just wipe my hands clean and walk away.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to both of the men that are in this book because they literally were the catalyst to this giant Europe trip where I went to go heal and learned so much about myself and wrote this book that's now being read by women all over the world. It's wild that you can like blueprint it out to see how I got here. And it's really a testament that everything really does happen for a reason.
Do you think the husband, you know, that classic of like how so many guys just don't have the balls to break up with someone? So they act like such an asshole or they cheat or whatever. And the fact that he like left his I mean, I can't believe he didn't have a password. Like, I don't know that he consciously knew he wanted to be caught, but you kind of wonder, like,
for sure,
what was this?
I think he was getting tired. And I think he was having a moral dilemma on the inside before he switched into like the sociopath territory. I think there was a little bit of that. But yeah, I mean, when I looked back on it, he would like come home and be like, oh yeah, have you heard this new song? And he would play it and it would be like the lyrics were very telling, but I never thought anything of it at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going back, I was like, oh, you were
dropping clues.
Right. Okay. And it's like, why didn't you just like grow a pair and sit me down? Like, and I said this to him when we were having that talk before I walked out. I was like, dude, if you just would have come to me and said like, I can't make this work. I don't want to be married anymore. I'm really sorry. I would have been like, cool, let's just be friends and we'll figure it out.
Did you ever get the answer of like, so where in the marriage did you decide that you were going to step out or felt you needed to step out?
I didn't, and I didn't care.
Good.
At that point, I was so thankful to be walking away and so done. And then lately, this actually happened like 2 weeks ago. I got a random DM from someone that was in his life in the sports world, who I didn't even recognize. I had to really look at her social media that she was sending me a message from to realize who it was. And she had sent me a message saying, hey, I'm a year sober now. I'm in recovery, and I would just like to talk to you and apologize for some of my actions that might have affected you. And I was like, look, girl, if you need...
what is that? So what does that mean? That this girl obviously messed around with it maybe before the 19-year-old?
Yeah, and I said to her, I was like, look, if you need to speak about something for your recovery to help you, I'm more than happy to do that. If you just need to like apologize for fucking my husband, I don't really care. I mean, there were many girls, I'm sure.
So you think he was like cheating?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he was cheating before you got married?
No, I don't. But then, like, I also 2 days before I found all this proof was like, I don't think he's done anything physically. I don't think he has the balls to. So, I mean, I could totally be wrong on that. But I think there were many girls that he was messing around with, and yeah.
God, I just think it's just crazy. And then that he would then turn it around on you and like...
Well, and watching how his life has played out afterwards, it makes a lot of sense that he had some type of jealousy around my career. Why,
is he taking acting classes now?
No, but I guess you could say he's in the influencer YouTube world
Okay.
now.
Interesting.
I mean, if you put a picture of him from our wedding and a picture of him now, you'd be like, that's not the same person.
Because,
I mean, you know,
more like, is he contouring his face? Is he doing ass shots? What's going on?
I and some other extended family members have discussed that we think that there's been some facial work done, but there's also been like cornrows and tattoos and.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's going like from like clean cut guy to like edgy whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But definitely like just again, I have
just nothing
bad on him. He has become a character in my story, and that's literally all I feel about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really interesting to watch, and because my friends and his ex-friends know how disconnected I am from it. Everybody messages me when things happen because it's comedy.
Yeah,
it's
you
like
can
watching
laugh
a
about
comedy
it.
show.
Yeah, that's good. That
Yeah.
you can like laugh about it and just be like dying.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, I was married to that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that there are women though that I know that are, you know, in not good relationships or marriages, and they're like, you know what? I wish she was fucking someone else.
Right, because then it would give me a
then
fucking
I'd be
reason.
like, see ya, you
Yeah.
know, like, okay, yeah.
Totally.
So I'm so happy for you, and everybody. The book is Eat, Pray, Fuck My Life. It looks very juicy. I'm very excited to read it. Did you sign it for me?
I did.
Aww. Gabrielle Stone. Where can they follow you on social media too, and so they can see all these other photos and things that go along with the book?
So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I'm at Gabrielle Stone. God, I'm new to TikTok, but I think it's at Gabrielle_Stone.
Well, I think you're doing pretty well on TikTok.
I am, but like I joined in the beginning of quarantine because I was so fucking bored. I just needed some content to look at, and there's some really creative, funny shit on there. And then I started posting random stupid stuff, and one of them blew up, and happened to be the one about my book. So,
and when did the book come out? Like, available?
It's been out for a little over a year.
Yeah, and like just now you're getting. That's what's so great, honestly, about a book. When someone goes, you know, should I write a book? I go, the thing about a book is it's a calling card. It's a business card.
Yeah.
And, you know, this could, I'm sure people are talking to you that this could be like a movie or a series. But even if it doesn't happen today, it's one of those things that could happen later on, you know, because it lives there and you actually have a product to sell.
Yeah, totally. You know? This book, writing this, got me through 2017. Like, I don't know. It was like therapy for me. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't written this. And to now get messages from women and men, I have a lot of guy readers, but to get messages from people every day about how it's changed their life and how they've gotten out of a bad relationship because of it, or they've learned how to love themselves because of it. It's so fulfilling to know.
And hopefully they can go to Europe in the next, maybe in like 6 months. Like, I really want to try to do something in the spring and summer, like in the summer. My kid's graduating from high school, and I'm like, you know, this was a big year for me, a big birthday, 20-year wedding anniversary. Like, we all thought we were going to have this, like, fun, great summer.
And then COVID.
And unfortunately, like, I didn't have, like, tickets and all that. But we had a couple things that we had to cancel. And I'm just like, okay, hopefully this year, maybe 2022. But it's a good book to then, you know,
get you excited about it.
Yes, because it's going to come back and we're going to be able to like have this fun life. But it also doesn't it make you so happy that you went?
I'm so happy. I did my second solo trip by choice this time, right before COVID happened in November and December. And
where did you go there?
Asia.
Oh, cool.
Did you like it? I came home and was like, oh my God, thank God I'm back.
Did you feel anything?
No. It was incredible.
No, so there wasn't anything going on there yet.
No,
okay.
No. So I went to Vietnam, Thailand, and Bali.
Oh yeah. How's Bali?
It was amazing, but honestly, Thailand was my favorite. And I only went to one town in Thailand, and I stayed for a week and a half, and it was magical.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to go back.
Everyone
great. Should travel solo once in their life. It's totally life-changing. You learn so much about yourself, and you like realize how capable you are. And it's fun to not be on anybody else's schedule.
Yeah, that's true. I'm never going to do it.
You're like, thanks, but no, absolutely not.
I'm never going to. I know. I'm not good like that. But I didn't think I would be either. I want to do it, and I think it's great, and I think people should, and the time to do it
is now.
Yeah. I never went in college. I was supposed to do semester at sea.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, I don't want to miss the fall semester of football life and sorority life at my college USC. And then after that, then I had jobs. And then it was like, well, there never was that opportunity. And then I was like, I don't really want to do the backpack in the hostel. Yeah. And then, like 30s, I had babies and everything. Now I'm finally like, oh my God, now I can go. And I have a couple dollars that I can actually have a nice time.
Totally.
And so now I'm really excited to do this, but, you know, probably not alone.
Yeah. With a girlfriend or your husband.
With my husband, girlfriend, or even my kids would be like good about finding shit. I'm not good at, like, I would get lost. It would definitely have to all be planned out for me, for sure, because that type of stuff but I appreciate people that are like, you know, like Kelly's like a little traveler, and she's like, but she has a cute boyfriend that goes with her. But you've done stuff alone. No, you've never gone alone.
It's great. It's great to go with the boyfriends, but like it's a whole different experience.
Yeah. No, I love and I love that you wrote a book, and I hope it becomes something bigger for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.